Let me tell you the moment my heart dropped. I was on my knees, cleaning someone else's mess, when a letter arrived proving they were trying to take everything I owned. I was on my knees scrubbing the baseboards when Charlotte said it. "You have to earn your place here, Amelia." My hands were swollen. The arthritis made every movement feel like grinding glass, but I kept scrubbing because I didn't want to give her a reason. Any reason. My son Michael's wife had been watching me all morning from the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, lips pressed into that thin line that meant she was cataloging my mistakes. I'd lived in this house for 32 years, raised Michael here, buried my husband here. But somehow, in the last 6 months, it had stopped feeling like mine. "Did you hear me?" Charlotte's voice cut through my thoughts. "Yes," I said quietly, wringing out the rag. "I heard you." She stepped closer. Her perfume was expensive, sharp. "I'm just saying, we're doing you a favor letting you stay. The least you can do is keep things clean. My mother would never let her house get like this." "Like what?" I wanted to ask. I'd cleaned yesterday too, and the day before that, but I didn't say anything. I'd learned that silence was safer. Michael appeared in the hallway, briefcase in hand. He glanced at me on the floor, then quickly looked away. "I've got that client meeting. I'll be back late." Again, I started to ask, but he was already out the door. Charlotte waited until we heard his car pull away. Then she walked to the kitchen and opened the cabinet where I kept my medications. "You took your pills this morning, right?" Yes, I think so." "You think so?" She shook her head, that pitying look spreading across her face. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're getting confused, Amelia. Mixing things up." My chest tightened. Was I? I remembered taking them, didn't I? She moved the bottles to a different shelf, higher up. "I'll organize these for you. It's better if I handle it. You know, for your own safety." I stood slowly, my knees protesting. "Charlotte, I've been taking my own medication and clearly it's not working, is it?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "When's the last time you remembered what day it is without checking your phone?" I opened my mouth, closed it. "Tuesday? Wednesday?" She saw my hesitation and nodded, satisfied. "Exactly. This is why we need systems. Structure? I'm helping you, even if you can't see it yet." The doorbell rang. Charlotte's expression shifted just for a second. Something flickered across her face. Annoyance? Fear? But then it was gone, replaced by that smooth, controlled mask. "I'll get it," she said quickly. But I was closer. I opened the door to find William, our mail carrier, holding a thick envelope. "Registered mail for Amelia Thornton," he said, glancing at his scanner. "Needs a signature." Charlotte appeared at my shoulder. "I can sign for her." "No, ma'am. Has to be the addressee." William held out his device to me. "Just right here, Mrs. Thornton." My hand shook as I signed. The envelope was heavy, official. There was a county seal in the corner. "Property Records Office." "What is that?" Charlotte's voice had an edge now. I turned it over in my hands. "I don't know." "Well, open it." William was still standing there, and something made me wait until he tipped his cap and walked back to his truck. Some instinct told me not to open this in front of her. But Charlotte wasn't moving. She stood so close I could feel her breath on my neck. "Open it, Amelia." My fingers fumbled with the seal. Inside were official documents, dense with legal language, transfer of property, deed modification, and there, at the bottom of the first page, was a signature. My signature. Except I'd never signed this. The date stared back at me. March 15th, 2 weeks ago. The day Charlotte insisted on taking me to that garden center 40 minutes away. "Oh, the day," she said I looked tired and should rest in the car while she shopped. The day she held my purse so I could relax. The day I came home feeling strangely groggy and slept for 4 hours straight. My vision blurred. The paper crinkled in my grip. "What does it say?" Charlotte asked, but her voice sounded far away now, hollow. I looked up at her, and for the first time in months, I didn't look away first. When did you forge my signature, Charlotte? Her face went very still. Then she laughed, this high, bright sound that didn't match her eyes. Forge? Amelia? Honey? You're confused again? You probably signed something and forgot? You know how you get. I flipped to the second page. There was an email address listed as the primary contact for the transaction. Michael's email address. The room tilted. Or maybe I did. Charlotte was talking, her words coming faster now. Something about protecting the family and future planning and how I was getting older and didn't understand these things anymore. But all I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. Through the window, I saw Sarah from next door checking her mailbox. She glanced toward our house, and our eyes met for just a moment. She'd been unusually quiet lately, but she'd always been kind. Her Ring doorbell camera pointed right at our driveway. She'd probably seen everything that day. The cars leaving. The timing. Charlotte was still talking, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was remembering how to fight. I locked myself in my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, the document spread across the quilt my mother made. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Michael came home 3 hours later. I heard his voice downstairs, low and urgent, mixing with Charlotte's sharper tones. Then, footsteps on the stairs, hesitant. He knocked. Mom, can we talk? I opened the door. My son stood there, tie loosened, looking everywhere except at my face. Charlotte said you got upset about some paperwork. Upset. The word tasted bitter. Is that what she called it? He rubbed the back of his neck, that gesture he'd done since he was 12, whenever he was caught in a lie. Look, you've been forgetting things lately. We're worried about you. What things? You left the stove on twice last month. Once? It was once, and I caught it. You asked me the same question 3 times in one conversation. Had I? I tried to remember, but the memory felt slippery, uncertain. Michael, look at me. He finally did. His eyes were tired, ringed with shadows. Did you know about this? One held up the transfer documents. Did you know someone was trying to take my house? It's not like that. His voice dropped. We were just looking into options for your future. You know, planning ahead. Planning ahead. I repeated his words slowly. By forging my signature? Nobody forged anything. But his jaw tightened. You probably signed it and don't remember. Charlotte said you've been really confused lately. Maybe we should talk to your doctor about stop. The word came out harder than I intended. Stop telling me I'm confused. I know what I signed and what I didn't. He glanced toward the hallway, where I could hear Charlotte moving around. You're 71, Mom. It's normal too. To what? To be erased from my own life. To be treated like I'm already gone. His face flushed. That's not fair. Then tell me the truth. Why is your email on these documents as the contact person? Silence. Heavy and damning. I didn't think you'd understand, he said finally. The tax implications, the estate planning, it's complicated stuff. We were trying to help. Help? I laughed. But there was no humor in it. Is that what you call it when you steal someone's house? Jesus, Mom, don't be dramatic. Nobody's stealing anything. He stepped back into the hallway. Get some rest. We'll talk when you're calmer. He closed the door before I could respond. I sat there in the dark, listening to them talk downstairs. Their voices were muffled, but I caught fragments. ... Can't reason with her. ... Might need to consider ... Consider what? I picked up my phone and dialed the number on the county seal. It rang 4 times before someone answered. Property records? This is Jennifer. Yes. Hello. I received a notice about a property transfer for 847 Maple Drive, and I need to verify one moment. Let me pull that up. Keys clicking. Okay. I see an application here that was submitted online March 10th, marked for in-person verification of signatures. Is this regarding your property? It is. But the appointment for notarization is scheduled for this Friday at 2 p.m.? Is there a problem with that time? My heart stopped. This Friday? As in 3 days from now? That's correct. We had an inquiry about the appointment earlier this week. Someone called to confirm the time. Who called? Let me check. The inquiry came from a Michael Thornton. Is that my son? The words felt like ash in my mouth. Can you tell me what happens if I don't show up for this appointment? Well, the application would be flagged for follow-up. But if someone has power of attorney, they could potentially complete the process on your behalf, depending on the type of POA. Ice flooded my veins. I haven't given anyone power of attorney. A pause? Then you should definitely attend the appointment. Or if you have concerns about the validity of the application, you might want to speak with an attorney before Friday. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah next door. I saw the mail truck earlier. Everything okay? I stared at the message. Sarah had lived next door for 8 years. We used to have coffee together every Thursday. But lately, Charlotte had been discouraging visitors, saying I got too tired from socializing. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I typed, "Do you still have recordings from your Ring camera? From 2 weeks ago?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. Yes, all saved to the cloud. Why? Can I see them? Come over tomorrow morning. Charlie will be at his meeting, around 10. I looked at the documents again. March 15th, the garden center trip. Charlotte holding my purse. Coming home groggy. What else had happened that day that I couldn't remember? Downstairs, I heard Charlotte laugh at something. That high, bright sound that made my skin crawl. And I realized something that made my blood run cold. She'd been giving me my medications every morning for the past 2 months. Higher doses, she'd said. Doctor's orders. But I hadn't been to the doctor in 2 months. What exactly had I been taking? I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that signature, my name in handwriting that almost looked like mine, but not quite. The capital A was wrong. I always looped it twice. This one only looped once. At dawn, I heard Charlotte's alarm through the wall. Then the shower. The coffee maker. Michael's car starting in the driveway. The front door closing behind him. Normal morning sounds in a house that had become a trap. I waited until I heard Charlotte's blow dryer, then slipped downstairs to the kitchen. My pill bottles were on the high shelf now, where she'd moved them. I pulled a chair over and reached up, my shoulders screaming in protest. The labels looked right. My name, my doctor's name, the pharmacy I'd used for 20 years. But when I opened the largest bottle, my blood pressure medication, the pills inside were different. Smaller. White instead of pink. My hands started shaking so hard I almost dropped the bottle. "What are you doing?" I spun around. Charlotte stood in the doorway, hair wet, arms crossed. "These aren't my pills." "Of course they are. You're confused again." She walked over and took the bottle from my hand. "See? Your name right here. The pills are different. They changed manufacturers. I told you that last week. You don't remember?" That pitying smile again. "This is exactly what we're worried about. Amelia?" I stepped down from the chair. "I'm going to talk to my doctor." "Good idea. I'll drive you." She pulled out her phone. "I'll make an appointment." "I can make my own appointment." "Can you?" She tilted her head. "Because last time you tried, you called at midnight. The receptionist called me very concerned." Had I done that? The memory felt fuzzy, distant. "I'll call during business hours," I said firmly. "Okay." She set down the bottle. "But I'm coming with you. Someone needs to explain what's really happening." I wanted to argue, but something told me to save my energy. "Fine." She smiled, satisfied. "I'm running to the store." Will you be okay alone for an hour? I nodded, not trusting my voice. The moment her car pulled away, I grabbed my purse and walked next door. Sarah answered immediately, like she'd been watching. Come in, come in. She ushered me through to her living room, where a laptop was already open. I pulled up March 5th, 10th. You want to start from the morning? Please. She clicked through the timeline. Here, this is 9:47 a.m. That's Charlotte's car backing out. I watched myself in the passenger seat, visible through the windshield. I looked, limp. My head was tilted against the window. You didn't look well, Sarah said quietly. Keep going. She fast-forwarded. They're gone for 3 hours. Then here, at 12:52 p.m., there's a different car. I leaned closer. A silver sedan I didn't recognize pulled into my driveway. Wait. My chest tightened. Go back. Sarah reversed the footage. The driver's door opened, and a man got out. Dark suit, briefcase. Michael, that's not his car, I whispered. Rental plates, Sarah said. I already checked. Enterprise, downtown location. Why would Michael rent a car? He was supposed to be at work that day. He'd told me he couldn't get away, couldn't come on the garden center trip. What time did he leave? Sarah clicked forward. 1:47 p.m. 55 minutes. 55 minutes in my house while I was gone, drugged and confused in Charlotte's car 40 miles away. Is there more? Charlotte's car returns at 2:15. Sarah paused the video on my face as we pulled in. My eyes were barely open. And then nothing unusual until Michael's regular car comes home at 6:30. I sat back, my mind racing. Michael had gone home, changed cars, come to the house while it was empty, then returned to work like nothing happened. Sarah, I need to ask you something. Did you notice anything else that day? Anything at all? She bit her lip. Charlotte stopped by that morning, before you left. I was getting my mail, and she was at your door. I heard her say something about just one pill won't hurt, and you said you'd already taken your medication. She said something about a new supplement for energy. Energy. I'd been exhausted all week before that trip. Bone-tired in a way I couldn't explain. What if it wasn't age? What if it was the pills? I need to go to the bank, I said, standing. Want me to drive you? No. They can't know you're helping me. I squeezed her hand. But thank you. For not thinking I'm crazy? Amelia. She walked me to the door. I don't think you're crazy. I think you're in danger. The words hung between us like smoke. Keep those videos, I said. Don't delete them. Already backed up 3 times. At the bank, the teller was Nyang with a practiced smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. How can I help you today? I need statements from the last 3 months. Checking in savings. Of course. I'll just need to verify. He glanced at his computer screen. Oh, I see here that Michael Thornton is listed as a co-signer with transaction authority. We usually just send these to him. I'm the primary account holder. My voice came out harder than I intended. I want my statements. He shifted uncomfortably. Of course, Mrs. Thornton. Just one moment. While he typed, I noticed a notation on his screen. Something about a flag on my account. Is there a problem? I asked. Oh, no problem. Just a note here that Mr. Thornton mentioned you sometimes get confused about transactions, so we should confirm large withdrawals with him first. Standard Elder Safety Protocol. Elder Safety Protocol. Elder Safety Protocol. As if my age made me incompetent? How long has that note been there? Let me check. Looks like it was added February 28th. 2 weeks before the forged signature. 2 weeks before the garden center trip. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. The printer word, spitting out pages. He handed them to me in a neat stack. Anything else today? I scanned the first page, then the second. My heart dropped. There, on March 14th, The day before the garden center trip was a charge for $375 to Howell and Associates. Notary services. They'd paid for the notary before I'd even signed anything. Mrs. Thornton, are you all right? I looked up at him. This kid who probably thought he was protecting me by flagging my account, who had no idea he was helping them steal my life. I need to speak to the manager, I said. Now. But even as I said it, I knew what they'd say. That I probably authorized it and forgot. That my son was just helping. That I should be grateful to have family who cared. The manager was called Mrs. Patterson, and she said exactly that. I walked out of the bank with my statements and a sick certainty settling in my stomach. The notary appointment was in 2 days, and I finally understood what Charlotte had been doing all along. She wasn't just stealing my house. She was stealing my credibility first. The law office was in a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a nail salon, which somehow made it feel more real, more accessible than the marble lobbies downtown. I'd found the listing online. Joseph Brennan, Elder Law and Estate Protection. The reviews mentioned words like patient and listens. Needed someone who would listen. The receptionist was maybe 60, with reading glasses on a beaded chain. She smiled when I walked in. You must be Mrs. Thornton. Joseph's expecting you. Joseph Brennan was older than I expected, maybe 70 himself, with silver hair and deep lines around his eyes. He shook my hand firmly and gestured to a chair. Tell me what's happening, he said simply. So I did. The pills, the signature, the notary receipt, the ring camera footage, Michael's rental car, the bank's elder safety protocol. He listened without interrupting, taking notes in careful handwriting. When I finished, he sat back. How long have you lived in that house? 32 years? And the deed is solely in your name. Yes. After my husband died, we never changed it. Michael was supposed to inherit eventually, but not like this. Good. He pulled out a form. First thing we do is file a formal objection with the county recorder. That'll stop any transfer from going through, even if someone shows up Friday with what looks like your signature. Can they do that? Just stop it. If there's credible evidence of fraud or undue influence, absolutely. And Mrs. Thornton, what you're describing is textbook elder financial abuse? He leaned forward. The medication changes, the isolation from neighbors, the gaslighting about your memory, these are recognized patterns. Courts take this seriously. Something loosened in my chest. So you believe me? I believe the evidence. And more importantly, I believe you're competent to manage your own affairs. That's what we need to establish on record. He pulled out another form. I'm going to have you do a brief cognitive assessment. Not because I doubt you, but because we need documentation showing you're of sound mind. When they claim you're confused, we'll have proof you're not. The assessment took 20 minutes. Memory questions, math problems, following complex instructions. He scored it immediately. Perfect score, he said. I'm going to have this notarized today and filed with your objection. Now, about those pills, do you still have them? Yes. Don't take any more. And if possible, have them tested. I know a pharmacist who can do an expedited analysis. He wrote down a name and address. If those pills aren't what the label says, that's a separate crime. What about the notary appointment on Friday? You're going to attend. But I'm going with you. He smiled grimly. And we're going to bring every piece of evidence we have. If your son shows up, he's going to have to explain himself in front of a county official. I felt tears prick my eyes. Thank you. You don't know what it's been like, everyone treating me like I'm invisible, incompetent, past maturity. He shook his head. I see it every day, Mrs. Thornton. And I'm sorry you're going through this. But you're not helpless, and you're not alone anymore. When I got home, Michael's car was in the driveway. He rarely came home this early. Inside, he was sitting at the kitchen table with Charlotte. They both looked up when I entered. Where were you? Michael asked. Out. Out where? Charlotte's voice had that edge again. You left without telling anyone. What if something happened? I'm allowed to leave my own house. Allowed? Michael stood. Mom, we're not trying to control you. We're trying to keep you safe. Are ya? I set my purse down carefully. Because it doesn't feel safe. It feels like I'm being erased. Charlotte's laugh was sharp. Oh, here we go. The paranoia again. It's not paranoia when there's actual evidence. I pulled out the bank statement. Want to explain this charge to Howell and Associates? The notary service you paid for the day before I supposedly signed transfer documents? The silence that followed was electric. Michael's face went pale. How did I get my own bank statements? I asked for them. I looked at Charlotte. Turns out I'm still capable of banking. You had no right to, Charlotte started. No right. To my own money? My own records? My voice rose despite my effort to stay calm. What happened to my pills, Charlotte? The ones you've been giving me every morning? They're the same pills you've always? They're not. And I'm having them tested. Michael stepped between us. Mom, you're not thinking clearly. You're confused, and stop saying that. The words exploded out of me. I am not confused. I know exactly what's happening. You're trying to take my house, and you're trying to make everyone think I'm too senile to notice. That's not. He ran his hand through his hair. It's more complicated than uncomplicated. Tell me the truth. He looked at Charlotte. She gave a tiny shake of her head. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. This wasn't Michael's plan. It was hers. He was just too weak to stop it. I think you should leave, I said quietly. Both of you. This is our house too, Charlotte said. No, it's my house. And I want you out. You can't just, actually, I can. I'm the sole owner. I've already spoken to an attorney. You have no legal right to be here. Michael's face crumpled. Mom, please. Can we just talk about this? Like what? Like a family. I laughed bitterly. You stopped treating me like family when you decided I was just an obstacle to your inheritance. That's not fair. Fair. My voice broke. You want to talk about fair? I went upstairs before I could say something worse. Before I could see if there was any remorse in my son's eyes. Through the floor, I heard them arguing. Charlotte's voice rising, sharp with fury. Michael's lower, defeated. Then footsteps on the stairs. Charlotte appeared in my doorway. Her face was composed again, but her eyes were cold. You think you're so smart? She said softly. But no one's going to believe you. Not really. You're a confused old woman who can't remember taking her own pills. That's all anyone will ever see. Get out of my room. This lawyer you hired. He's going to take your money and tell you what you want to hear. And when this all shakes out, when the truth comes out about your memory problems, about your incompetence, Michael will get the house anyway, through the courts, if necessary. I said, get out. She smiled. We'll see who ends up on the street. Amelia, we'll see. After she left, I sat on my bed, shaking. Through the window, I could see Sarah's house. Her porch light was on. My phone buzzed. A text from Joseph. Objection filed. You're protected for now. Call if anything changes. I looked around my bedroom. The quilt my mother made, the photos of Michael as a boy, the life I'd built here. They weren't taking it, not without a fight. Charlotte's tone changed overnight. The next morning, she appeared at my bedroom door with a tray. Tea, toast, a small vase with a daisy. I thought we could start over, she said softly. I've been stressed, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. I stared at the tea. Steam curled from the cup. I'm not drinking that. Her smile tightened. It's just chamomile. To help you relax. I don't need to relax. She set the tray on my dresser with deliberate care. Amelia, we need to resolve this as a family. Fighting doesn't help anyone. Michael's heartbroken. Where is he? Downstairs. He wants to apologize. I pushed past her. Michael sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands. He looked up when I entered, his eyes red-rimmed. "Mom, I'm so sorry." "I never meant the doorbell," interrupted him. Through the window, I saw a courier van. Charlotte moved toward the door, but I got there first. "Certified mail for Amelia Thornton." The courier held out a tablet. "Sign here." Charlotte appeared at my shoulder. "What is it?" I signed and took the envelope. "County Recorder's Office." "Official seal?" My hands steadied as I opened it. Inside was a notice. Property transfer application -847 Maple Drive. Alert. Additional documentation required. Scheduled appointment Friday, December 20th, 2 p.m. Failure to appear with valid identification and supporting documents will result in application suspension. But there was more. A second sheet. Notice objection filed by property owner. Transfer on hold pending resolution. Charlotte's face went white. "You filed an objection?" "I protected what's mine." "You had no right." "I had every right." I held up the paper. "Says here the appointment still stands. They want to see everyone involved. Face to face?" Michael stood. "Mom, this is getting out of hand. Can't we just what? Let you steal my house quietly?" "Nobody's stealing." He stopped, ran his hand through his hair. "Look, we need to talk about this rationally. Maybe you should sign something simple. Just a small correction. Then we can all move on." "A correction to a signature I never made." The county clerk said it's just a formality. Charlotte cut in. "A technical issue with the paperwork? 5 minutes, one signature, and this all goes away." I looked at them both. Michael wouldn't meet my eyes. Charlotte's smile was tight, controlled. "When did you talk to the county clerk?" I asked. Silence. "When, Charlotte?" "This morning," she said finally. "I called to clarify the process. And they just told you everything." "About my objection?" Her jaw clenched. "I explained that you were having memory issues. That family was trying to help. You had no authority to. Someone has to manage this." Her voice rose. "You're clearly not capable of understanding the legal get out." "What?" I said, "Get out! Both of you. Now." Michael stepped forward. "Mom, please. Just listen. I'm done listening. You have until tonight to remove your things." Charlotte laughed, sharp and brittle. "You can't evict us. We live here." "No, you're guests. And I'm revoking that invitation." "On what grounds? Attempted fraud? Theft? Take your pick." She moved closer, her voice dropping to something dangerous. "You really want to do this? Make this public? Everyone will see how confused you are. How unstable. Let them." "Fine." She grabbed her purse from the counter. "But don't come crying when you're alone in this house with no one to help you. When you can't remember your own name." They left. Doors slamming. Car engines roaring. The silence afterward felt like drowning. I went to the cabinet where Charlotte had moved my pills. Reached up, the bottles were gone. Every single one. My heart hammered. I needed those. Blood pressure, thyroid, arthritis, pain management. They'd taken everything. I called my pharmacy. "This is Amelia Thornton. I need emergency refills. I'm sorry, Mrs. Thornton, but we show recent refills already picked up. You should have a 90-day supply." "I don't. They're missing." "Missing?" A pause. "Do you need to file a police report?" What would I say? That my son and his wife stole my medication to keep me dependent on them? "I'll call back," I said. My phone rang. "Joseph. Mrs. Thornton. I got a call from the county. Someone's trying to expedite your case. Pushing for an emergency hearing." "Who?" "Your son's attorney. Claiming you're a danger to yourself, that you need immediate intervention." The room tilted. "On what basis?" "They're saying you've been erratic, threatening, possibly incompetent. They want a psych evaluation ordered." "That's insane." "It's strategic. If they can get a court to question your competency before Friday's appointment, The transfer becomes easier to push through. Papers rustling. But here's the thing, they tip their hand too early. We can counter this. I'm filing an emergency motion for a protective order. Financial abuse, coercion, possible medication tampering. My pills are gone. They took them all. Silence. Then, that's good. Good evidence. They're panicking. People who are innocent don't steal medication. His voice hardened. Don't take anything they give you from this point forward. And Mrs. Thornton, consider staying somewhere else tonight. After we hung up, I looked around my kitchen. 32 years of memories. But Charlotte was right about one thing. I was alone here. Through the window, I saw Sarah on her porch. She waved, concerned. I grabbed my coat and whatever else I could carry, because I was starting to understand. They hadn't just planned to take my house. They'd planned to make sure I couldn't fight back. I slept at Sarah's that night. She didn't ask questions, just made up the guest room and brought me tea I actually trusted. In the morning, she drove me to the pharmacy Joseph recommended. The pharmacist was a woman named Linda, maybe 50, with sharp eyes behind frameless glasses. She examined the pills I'd managed to save 3 tablets I'd hidden in my jewelry box weeks ago, back when something told me to keep evidence. These definitely aren't blood pressure medication, she said after 10 minutes. I need to send them for full analysis, but based on appearance and markings, these look like diphenhydramine, Benadryl, essentially. High dose. What would that do? Make you drowsy, confused, foggy. If someone took this thinking it was their BP medication, she shook her head. They'd be a mess, especially combined with actual antihistamines. My stomach turned. How long to confirm? Rush analysis? 48 hours? I'll call you directly. When we got back to Sarah's, Joseph was waiting on the porch. We need to talk, he said. Your son's attorney just filed something creative. Inside, he spread papers across Sarah's kitchen table. They're claiming you verbally agreed to the transfer months ago, that you only filed the objection because you forgot you'd consented. They have a witness. What witness? Charlotte. She's prepared to testify that you discussed this plan repeatedly, that you were enthusiastic about it. That's a lie. I know. But here's what matters. They're also claiming you gave Michael temporary power of attorney last year. Do you remember signing anything like that? I closed my eyes, thinking back. After my surgery, the hernia repair, Michael said I should sign something in case I was under anesthesia and couldn't make medical decisions. Did you read it? He said it was standard. I trusted him. Joseph's jaw tightened. If that POA is broader than medical decisions, they might argue it covers financial matters too. I need to see the original. It's in my filing cabinet. In the house. Can you get it? Not without them knowing. Sarah spoke up. What if she's not alone? We both looked at her. I'll go with her, Sarah continued. Make it look like we're just picking up clothes. They won't suspect anything. Joseph considered. Actually, that might work. But go soon, before they realize what you're looking for. An hour later, Sarah and I pulled into my driveway. Charlotte's car was gone, but Michael's was there. My hand shook as I unlocked the door. Michael? No answer. We moved quickly upstairs. I grabbed a suitcase, threw in clothes while Sarah stood watch. Then down to the study, to the old metal filing cabinet by the window. The POA should have been in the front. Medical documents, clearly labeled. It wasn't there. Sarah, help me look. We pulled out folders, scattering papers, birth certificates, insurance forms, my husband's death certificate. No power of attorney. Maybe they already took it, Sarah said. Then I remembered. The safe, in the bedroom closet, behind shoeboxers, was a small fireproof safe. I'd kept our important documents there for years. The combination was my wedding anniversary. I spun the dial with trembling fingers. The lock clicked open. Inside, passports, bonds, my husband's watch, and a manila folder labeled legal. I pulled it out. The POA was there, but paper clipped to something else. Another document, notarized. Transfer of power of attorney expansion amendment. My breath caught. The date, February 15th, 3 weeks before the garden center trip. This document claimed to expand Michael's authority from medical decisions to full financial and legal representation during periods of incapacity or cognitive decline. My signature was at the bottom. I'd never seen this paper before in my life. "Is that yours?" Sarah whispered. "No." I held it to the light. The signature looked right this time, the double loop on the A, the way I crossed my T. "But this is better than the first forgery," they practiced. Footsteps downstairs. We froze. "Mom?" Michael's voice. "Is that you?" Sarah grabbed my arm. "Back door." But it was too late. Michael appeared in the bedroom doorway. His eyes went to the open safe, to the papers in my hand. "You weren't supposed to find that," he said quietly. "This signature is fake." "It's not fake. You signed it. You just don't remember." He stepped into the room. "Dr. Weston documented your memory issues. It's all in your file." "What file?" "Your medical file? The one Charlotte helped update during your appointments?" "I haven't been to Dr. Weston in months." "Yes, you have. You went 3 times. Charlotte drove you." His voice was patient, like explaining something to a child. "You really don't remember, do you?" The room spun. Had I been to the doctor? The memories felt slippery, uncertain. Then I noticed something. On his key ring, dangling from his pocket, a small key I recognized. The mailbox key, but not our mailbox. A P.O. box key. "Where's the mail been going, Michael?" He glanced down, realized his mistake. "What?" "Our mail. The real mail. You rerouted it, didn't you?" Silence. How much am I missing? How many bills, statements, notices? "Mom, you're not well. You need help. The only thing I need is the truth." I held up the document. "And this proves you've been planning this for months. We're trying to protect you by erasing me." A car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I saw Charlotte getting out. Phone pressed to her ear. When she spotted Sarah's car, her face changed. "She's calling someone," Sarah said. Michael looked torn. "Mom, please, just come downstairs. Let's talk this through calmly. Like a family?" I laughed bitterly. "You stopped being my family when you decided I was just property to manage." I pushed past him, Sarah right behind me. Down the stairs, out the door, into Sarah's car. Charlotte ran toward us. "Stop! You can't just..." Sarah's engine roared to life. As we pulled away, I looked back at my house. At Michael standing in the doorway, looking small and lost. At Charlotte screaming something I couldn't hear. At the home I'd fought for, that I was losing anyway. "Where to?" Sarah asked. I clutched the folder to my chest. "Joseph's office. We have evidence now." "What about Friday's appointment?" I checked my phone. Thursday, 4 p.m. 22 hours until the confrontation that would decide everything. "I'll be there," I said. "And I'm bringing proof. The HOA meeting wasn't supposed to be about me." But Charlotte made sure it was. Sarah and I arrived at the community center Thursday evening. Folding chairs arranged in rows, maybe 30 neighbors milling around with coffee. I'd lived here for decades, knew most of these faces. Charlotte stood near the front, talking to Bob Martinez, the HOA president. She saw me enter and her expression flickered surprise, then something colder. Michael wasn't with her. "Let's sit in back," I whispered to Sarah. But Bob was already calling the meeting to order. First item, pool maintenance budget. Second, the Thornton property discussion. My chest tightened. "What discussion?" Charlotte stood, smoothing her skirt. "I requested this agenda item because we have a community concern." My mother-in-law, Amelia, has been showing signs of decline that affect neighborhood safety. Murmurs rippled through the room. She's left her garage door open overnight twice. Last week she drove the wrong way down Maple. Yesterday she caused a scene at the bank, accusing staff of conspiracy. Charlotte's voice was measured, concerned. I'm worried about her welfare and ours. I think the community should be aware. Heat flooded my face. Half of that was lies. The other half was twisted truth. Bob looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Thornton, would you like to respond? Every eye turned to me. I felt 71. Small. Exactly what Charlotte wanted them to see. Then I stood. My legs shook, but my voice didn't. I'd like to clarify some things, I said. The garage door incident happened once, not twice. I was distracted because I'd just discovered someone had been tampering with my medication. More murmurs. Charlotte's jaw tightened. As for the bank scene, I wasn't accusing anyone of conspiracy. I was requesting my own financial records, which is my right as an account holder. I pulled the county notice from my purse. And I think the community should know that someone forged my signature on property transfer documents. The room went silent. That's not Charlotte started. I filed a formal objection with the county recorder's office. The transfer is on hold pending investigation. I held up the paper. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., there's an official hearing. Everyone named in the application will be required to explain themselves in front of a county official. Bob leaned forward. Mrs. Thornton, are you saying there's an active fraud investigation? I'm saying someone tried to steal my house, and they used my supposed confusion to cover their tracks. Charlotte laughed, that sharp, brittle sound. This is exactly what I mean. She's paranoid, making wild accusations, then explain the notary receipt, I said quietly. The one paid for the day before I allegedly signed documents I'd never seen. Her smile froze. Or explain why my son rented a car and came to my house while you took me 40 miles away, after giving me pills that made me too drowsy to stay awake. You're confused? I'm not confused. My voice rose. I'm 71, not incompetent. And I'm tired of people using my age as an excuse to erase me. Sarah stood beside me. I have security footage from that day. Timestamps, everything. I've already provided it to her attorney. Bob cleared his throat. Is that true? There's actual evidence. Yes, I said. And there's something else the community should know. Any property transfer in this neighborhood requires notice to the HOA. Did anyone here receive that notice? Heads shook around the room. Because there wasn't one, I continued. The whole thing was being done secretly, which violates our community bylaws. Bob flipped through papers. She's right. Article 7, Section 3. Any ownership change requires 30-day advance notice to the association. Charlotte's composure cracked. This is ridiculous. She's an old woman who can't even remember taking her pills. You're all going to believe her wild stories. Old woman? I repeated the words slowly. That's all you see, isn't it? Someone past her expiration date. Someone whose house would be better off in younger hands. That's not what it's exactly what you meant. I looked around the room. How many of you have been dismissed because of your age? Talked over? Treated like your experience doesn't matter? Several heads nodded. Mrs. Chun in the third row. Gerald by the window. I'm not confused, I said. I'm being gaslit. There's a difference. And tomorrow, the county will see the evidence, including the fake POA expansion my son supposedly witnessed me sign on a date I was actually in the hospital recovering from surgery. Charlotte's face went white. You have no proof? I have the hospital discharge record, time-stamped, notarized, and the signature on the POA amendment doesn't match the signature on my discharge papers from that same day. I paused. Whoever forged it didn't think to check what my real signature looked like under hospital sedation. The silence was deafening. Bob stood. Mrs. Thornton, I think this is beyond HOA scope. But for the record, no property transfer will be recognized by this association without proper notice and documentation. Thank you. Charlotte grabbed her purse. You're going to regret this. All of you, believing a senile old woman over family trying to help her. But she was the only one who looked convinced. As she stormed out, I caught Mrs. Chun's eye. She nodded once respect, solidarity. Outside! Sarah squeezed my shoulder. That took guts. I'm shaken, you should be. You just declared war in front of 30 witnesses. My phone buzzed. Joseph, county clerk confirmed. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bring everything. They're sending an investigator. I looked up at the community center, at the neighbors filtering out. Several stopped to touch my arm, to whisper support. What if I'm wrong? I asked Sarah. What if my memory really is going and I just can't see it? Amelia. She turned me to face her. Confused people don't organize evidence. They don't file objections or hire lawyers. They don't stand up in front of their neighbors and systematically dismantle a lie. Then why does Michael think I'm incompetent? Because it's easier than admitting what he's doing is wrong. We drove back to our house in silence. Tomorrow would decide everything. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not confused, not incompetent, not invisible. Just a woman who refused to disappear quietly. The county recorder's office smelled like old paper and floor polish. Joseph met me outside at 1:45 p.m. They're taking this seriously. There's an investigator inside Rebecca Chun, Fraud Division. She's already pulled the timeline. My hands were steady now. I'd spent the morning organizing every document, every receipt, every piece of evidence into a blue folder that felt heavy with truth. Is Michael here? Not yet. Charlotte arrived 10 minutes ago with their attorney. He paused. Are you ready? Yes. Inside, the conference room was small and windowless. Charlotte sat on one side with a man in an expensive suit. She looked composed, professional. When she saw me, her eyes narrowed. A woman in her 40s stood by the window, badge clipped to her belt. Rebecca Chun. Mrs. Thornton. She shook my hand firmly. I'm the investigator assigned to your case. Let's get started. We sat. The door opened again, and Michael entered, looking pale. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Rebecca opened a laptop. I've reviewed the application for property transfer submitted March 10th. Mrs. Thornton, you claim this signature isn't yours? That's correct. Charlotte's attorney leaned forward. My client has documentation showing Mrs. Thornton has experienced significant memory decline. She likely signed and forgot. Then let's establish timeline. Rebecca pulled up a screen. The notarization was scheduled for March 15th, but the notary fee was paid March 14th. Mrs. Thornton, where were you March 14th? At home, mostly. Until late afternoon when Charlotte took me out. And March 15th. Charlotte drove me to a garden center. We were gone for hours. Rebecca typed, our records show someone accessed the online portal from your home IP address on March 14th at 11:47 a.m. Were you home then? Yes. Were you on your computer? No. I don't use computers much. She turned to Michael. Mr. Thornton, were you home that morning? His face flushed. I don't remember. Let me help. Your work badge was swiped at your office at 9 a.m., then again at 3 p.m., but not during the lunch period from noon to 1. She paused. Where were you during that gap? Silence. Charlotte spoke up. This is harassment. My husband doesn't have to, actually. He does. Rebecca's voice was calm. This is a fraud investigation. Mr. Thornton, I'll ask again where. Were you March 14th between noon and 1 p.m.? I went home for lunch. Did you access your mother's computer? I might have checked something. Like the county property portal. His jaw worked. I was helping her research options. Without her knowledge, she asked me to look into it. I spoke up. No, I didn't. Charlotte's attorney jumped in. Mrs. Thornton, my client has documentation of conversations where you expressed interest in transferring the property. Do you remember those discussions? There were no such discussions. Your medical records indicate memory impairment. My medical records. I opened my folder. I requested copies this morning. There are notes in here I've never seen. Dated visits I never attended. I slid papers across the table. This one, dated February 8th, says I was confused and disoriented. But according to my bank statement, I was at the bank that day, conducting routine business. The teller's notes say I was perfectly coherent. Rebecca examined both documents. These are conflicting reports, because one is real and one isn't. I pulled out another paper. And this the POA expansion, dated February 15th. I was in the hospital that day. Post-surgical recovery. Here's my discharge paperwork, time-stamped, 6 p.m. The POA was supposedly notarized at 2 p.m. Charlotte's composure cracked. She's lying. She wasn't in the hospital that day. Yes, I was. I slid the hospital bracelet across the table. I kept it. And the discharge papers have my actual signature. You can compare them. Rebecca lined up 3 documents. The hospital paperwork, the original POA from my surgery, and the expansion amendment. The signatures on the first 2 matched. The third was close, but the A was wrong. Mrs. Whitmore, Rebecca said to Charlotte, you witnessed this POA expansion signature? Yes. I drove her to the notary. While she was in the hospital. Charlotte's face went rigid. She wasn't. She's confused about dates. The hospital record is official. Time-stamped. Documented. Rebecca's voice hardened. Either Mrs. Thornton was in 2 places at once, or this document is fraudulent. The room was silent, except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Michael finally spoke. Charlotte, what did you do? I was helping. She needed help. By forging documents. She would have signed if she understood. Charlotte's voice rose. But she's old and stubborn and can't see what's best for who? I asked quietly. For me? Or for you? She stared at me with something like hatred. You're taking up space in a house too big for one person. Space Michael could use. Space his children could grow up in. You're being selfish. It's my house. It should be his. He's your son. And that gives you the right to steal it? Rebecca closed her laptop. I've heard enough. Mr. Thornton, Mrs. Whitmore, you're both persons of interest in an active fraud investigation. The property transfer is officially denied and flagged. Do not attempt to refile. She looked at Michael. You should hire a criminal attorney. He buried his face in his hands. Charlotte's attorney gathered his papers. My client won't be answering further questions without counsel present. They left. Charlotte last, shooting me one final look of pure venom. Then, it was just Joseph, Rebecca, and me. What happens now? I ask. Depends if the DA wants to prosecute. But the property's secure. No one can touch it. Rebecca handed me a card. If they contact you, call me immediately. Don't engage. Outside, the December sun was setting. Cold and clear. Joseph walked me to Sarah's car. You did it. It's over. Is it? The legal part? Yes. The rest? He squeezed my shoulder. That's up to you. Sarah drove me home, my real home. The locks had been changed that morning by a locksmith, Joseph recommended. Inside, the house felt different. Lighter. Like something dark had been scraped away. On the kitchen counter was an envelope. Michael's handwriting. I almost didn't open it. But I did. Mom, I'm sorry. I don't know when I stopped seeing you as a person and started seeing you as a problem to solve. Charlotte convinced me you'd be happier, somewhere smaller, somewhere with care. I believed her because it was easier than dealing with my own guilt about not visiting enough, not calling enough, not being enough. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Michael, I read it twice. Then I folded it and put it in the drawer with all the other things from my past that couldn't be changed. The mediation room at Joseph's office was smaller than the county building, but the tension felt just as thick. Charlotte sat across from me, her attorney beside her. Michael sat alone at the end of the table, looking like he hadn't slept. Joseph was to my right, a stack of documents between us. "Thank you all for coming," Joseph began. "We're here to resolve the remaining issues without further legal action. Mrs. Thornton has agreed to mediation in good faith." Charlotte's attorney, a thin man named Patterson, cleared his throat. "My client maintained she acted in what she believed were Mrs. Thornton's best interests. By forging signatures?" Joseph didn't look up from his notes. "My client disputes that characterization. The county investigator doesn't." Joseph slid a report across the table. "This is Rebecca Chun's preliminary finding. It documents 3 forged signatures, 1 falsified medical record, and coordinated financial exploitation." Patterson scanned it, his face tightening. "This hasn't been filed with the DA yet?" "No." "Because Mrs. Thornton asked for this meeting first?" Joseph looked at me. "Despite everything, she wanted to give your clients a chance to resolve this privately." Charlotte laughed, sharp and bitter. "How generous!" The confused old woman offering mercy. "Charlotte, don't," Michael started. "Don't, what? Pretend anymore." She turned to me. "You won, Amelia. You kept your precious house. What more do you want?" "I want the truth," I said quietly. "All of it." Silence. "The medical records," I continued. "Who falsified them?" Charlotte looked away. Michael stared at his hands. "Dr. Weston's office has no record of those appointments," Joseph said. "But they do have record of someone calling to request Mrs. Thornton's file be flagged for cognitive concerns. The call came from a number registered to Charlotte Whitmore." "I was worried about her," Charlotte said. "That's not a crime. It is when you use false information to manipulate legal proceedings." Joseph pulled out another document. "This is the recording of your call to the bank, requesting they flag Mrs. Thornton's account. You told them she'd been diagnosed with early dementia? That was a lie. I thought she had it." "Based on what medical expertise?" Her jaw clenched. "Based on living with her, watching her forget things." "Everyone forgets things," I said. "That doesn't make us incompetent. You're 71. So?" The word came out harder than I intended. "So, I deserve to lose everything. My home, my independence, my dignity. You deserved to be taken care of by stealing from me." My voice rose. "That's not care, Charlotte. That's control." She turned to Michael. Tell her how we plan to move her somewhere nice. Assisted living with activities and nurses. Tell her it wasn't about the money." Michael's voice was barely audible. "It was about the money." Charlotte went rigid. "What? Not at first? But then ... yeah." He looked up, eyes red. "We were drowning, Charlotte. The business loans, your credit cards, the second mortgage on our place. We needed the equity from Mom's house. That's not we talked about it. Remember? How much we could clear if we sold her place, moved her somewhere cheaper. You said it made financial sense. For her too. She didn't need that much space." "It wasn't your decision to make," I said. Charlotte's face crumpled. "I did everything for this family. Everything. And you're all treating me like a criminal." "You committed crimes," Joseph said simply. "Document fraud, identity theft, financial exploitation of an elder? That's not an opinion. That's what happened." Patterson leaned toward Charlotte, whispering urgently. She shook her head, tears streaming now. "What do you want?" she finally asked me. "Money? We don't have any. The house back? It's yours. What's left?" I pulled out a single sheet of paper. "This is a restraining order. If Joseph files it, you can't come within 500 feet of me or my property. No contact, no communication, nothing." Her eyes widened. You can't, I can. But I'm offering an alternative. I slid the paper to the center of the table. You sign a notarized confession. You detail every document you forged, every lie you told, every step of what you did. You repay any money taken from my accounts. Joseph has the amount, and you leave. Not just the house, the state, permanently. That's exile, Patterson protested. That's mercy. Joseph's voice was steel. Because the alternative is criminal charges. Mrs. Whitmore falsified medical records. That's a felony. Forged legal documents. Some other felony. Elder abuse, yet another. She's looking at 5 to 10 years minimum. Charlotte's face went white. Michael. He didn't look at her. I think you should sign it. You're my husband. And she's my mother. His voice broke. What we did, what you convinced me to do it, was wrong. I knew it was wrong. I just didn't want to admit it. So you're choosing her. I'm choosing what's right. Charlotte grabbed her purse, standing abruptly. This is insane. All of you. I was trying to help. Sign the confession, Joseph said calmly. Or I file everything with the DA on Monday. Your choice. She looked at each of us, Michael. Me, her attorney, finding no allies. Patterson whispered something to her. She nodded once, mechanically. Fine, I'll sign. Joseph produced the document. Charlotte signed it, her hand shaking, tears dripping onto the paper. The notary witnessed it. Official, binding. When it was done, she looked at me. I hope you're happy. Alone in that big house. No family. No one who cares. I'm not alone, I said. I have neighbors who stood by me, friends who believed me, and I have myself, something I almost lost because you convinced me I was losing my mind. She left without another word. Michael stayed. He looked small, diminished. Mom, I don't. I held up my hand. Not today. Maybe someday, but not today. He nodded, understanding. Then he left too. Joseph gathered the papers. The confession is filed. The restraining order is ready if you need it. Charlotte has 72 hours to provide proof she's leaving the state. And if she doesn't, then we move forward with charges. I felt hollowed out. Victorious, but empty. Thank you, I told Joseph, for believing me. You made it easy. You kept the receipts. He smiled slightly. That's power, Mrs. Thornton. Documentation, truth. Never underestimate it. Sarah drove me home. The sun was setting, painting my street in gold and shadow. How do you feel? She asked. I don't know yet. That's fair. Inside my house, I walked from room to room. Each space felt reclaimed. The kitchen where Charlotte had controlled my medication, the study where Michael had accessed my computer, the bedroom where I'd found the forged documents. All mine again. I made tea, sat at the kitchen table, pulled out the confession and read it one more time. Every lie, documented. Every crime, admitted. Charlotte was right about one thing. I was alone now. But I wasn't lonely. I was free. The county recorder's office called 3 weeks later. Mrs. Thornton, this is Jennifer. I wanted to let you know the transfer application has been officially expunged from your property record. It's like it never existed. Thank you, I said, feeling something loosen in my chest. And one more thing, there's now a protection flag on your deed. Any future transfer attempts require in-person verification with 2 forms of ID and a witness. Extra security. After I hung up, I looked around my kitchen. Same old counters, same worn floor. But it felt different now. Solid. Mine? The doorbell rang. Sarah stood there with a casserole dish. Chicken and rice, she said. Thought you might be tired of cooking. You don't have to keep checking on me. I know. I want to. She came inside, set the dish on the counter. How are you really doing? Better. The pharmacy confirmed the pills were antihistamines, not my actual medication. Joseph filed it with the police report. And Charlotte? Gone. Patterson confirmed she moved to Arizona last week. Her sister lives there. Sarah nodded. And Michael? I pulled out the envelope I'd found that morning. Another letter, this one longer. He writes, I said, apologizing, explaining, asking if someday we might talk. Will you? Maybe, when I'm ready. I folded the letter. Right now, I'm just trying to remember who I was before all this. Before I started questioning every thought, every memory. You were strong. You still are. After Sarah left, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went down to the basement, to the boxers I'd been avoiding, photo albums, my husband's things, memories I'd been too tired to face. I pulled out our wedding album. Young faces, impossible hope. We'd bought this house together 32 years ago, painted every room ourselves, planted the oak tree in the front yard. Michael grew up here, learned to ride his bike on this driveway, had his first heartbreak in the living room. When did I become just an obstacle to him? When did my age matter more than my life? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Rebecca Chun. Wanted you to know the DA declined to prosecute. Charlotte's confession and departure were enough. Case closed. I stared at the message. No trial. No public reckoning. Just ... over. Part of me felt cheated, but mostly I felt relieved. I texted back, thank you for everything. That evening I did something else I hadn't done in months. I mopped the kitchen floor. Not because Charlotte was watching. Not because anyone told me I had to earn my place. Just because it was my floor, in my house, and I wanted it clean. The rhythm was meditative. The smell of lemon cleaner, familiar and grounding. When I finished, I stood back and looked at the shine. Still got it? I said to the empty room. And I laughed. Really laughed, for the first time in forever. The house didn't echo back. It just stood there, solid and patient, waiting for whatever came next. I made myself dinner simple. Just soup and bread. Ate it at the table where I'd confronted Michael, where I'd read that first county letter, where everything had started to unravel and then reknit itself into something stronger. Before bed, I walked through each room, turning off lights, checking locks. Not because I was afraid, but because these were my locks now, my lights, my choices. In the bedroom, I opened the drawer where I'd kept all the evidence. The bank statements, the forged documents, the hospital bracelet. I'd give them to Joseph for his files, but for now they stayed here. Proof that I hadn't imagined it. Proof that I'd fought back. Proof that being 71 didn't mean being erased. I climbed into bed, my bed, and pulled up the quilt my mother had made. The same quilt that had been there the day I'd spread those documents across it. Shaking and confused and wondering if I was losing my mind. I hadn't been losing my mind. I'd been losing my voice. But I'd found it again. Through the window, I could see the oak tree Michael used to climb. It had survived storms, droughts, 32 winters. Still standing. Like me. My phone lit up one last time. A text from Sarah. Lunch tomorrow? My treat. I smiled and typed back. Yes. And I'm driving myself. Because I could. Because I was capable. Because no one got to decide my competence except me. I turned off the light and closed my eyes. The house settled around me, familiar creaks, the hum of the heater, the sound of home. Tomorrow I'd call Joseph about updating my will, making sure it was ironclad. I'd schedule a real doctor's appointment, not a fabricated one. I'd maybe even call Michael back when I was ready. But tonight, I was just here, in my house, on my terms, exactly where I'd earned the right to be. Not because anyone gave me permission, but because I'd never needed it in the first place. If you're watching from somewhere, wherever that is, I hope you know this. Your age doesn't define your worth. Your memory doesn't determine your truth. And your home, the one you've built, The one you fought for, that's yours, until you decide otherwise. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to fight to be heard when everyone told you that you were just confused, because you weren't confused, you were right all along.